So, hi everyone and welcome to today's little stream. I'm continuing on with the Isle game themed little bookmarks. But today, instead of doing black ink, I'm going to be using the Line Maker Derwent Graphic, and this is the grey colour, or graphite colour. So, just make sure they're under the camera. And yeah, I find these actually for 3 pens quite expensive. So that's that's over £2 each. But then I did buy these in a bigger art shop, so if you shop around you should be able to find them cheaper. And the sizes I've got with these are a 0.1, a 0.3 and a 0.5. So very tight on sizes, which is a bit of a shame. I'd love to have a 0.05 in these and 0.8. So it's the same pen as the black ones, but it is actually grey, and the bronze ones are bronze. So this is a 0.3, which I'm not going to use. I normally have these in order. 0.1. Now, for today's demo, I was going to do the taco, which I can't pronounce. It's something like P-S-I-T-T, something Pitasico, something. Everybody calls it a taco. It's just easier. And in this case, the little taco dinosaur is going to be eating tacos. Original idea from me. The thing that I've got is the Isle game has their models are rigged in a very particular way on the head, showing not only like a jugal spike, but also a kind of chin spike on the head. But when looking at the skulls of the dinosaurs, the ones that I can find, there's no mention or show of this secondary spike on the chin or on the jaw bit. So it's difficult because I like to do my drawings moderately accurately and correct. But then this is for the game, so it needs to reflect what the game's got in it as well, which is highly irritating. But some of the fossilised remains do show like a lump there, and the jugal spikes are different shapes and sizes, and I suspect that's due to the age of the creature, and when it died would depend on the length and the growth and stuff. So it's a little bit what to do for the best on this one. But as you can see, I've put in a pencil rough drawing, very rough sketch. I've just mapped in bits where I want them, how I want them, and I'm just going to double check something on my skull. Yeah, because they have just a HB pencil. They have the jugal eye bit going out there, and then they have like a secondary spike coming over here. I mean, you never quite know. But this little critter did have quite a tooth battery. I can definitely see that from the skulls. So there's a large battery of teeth and that lovely parrot-like beak. Now, let's quickly check in the skulls. Because the nose is right at the end. So, and then there's a very, in proportion to the skull, there is quite a large fenestra there, a window in the skull, and even the eye area is pretty big. So it was a chunky skull, but quite lightly built. And then there's not much casing around the back. So the brain case was, yeah, it's very much like a parrot in the shape and size. It's difficult to see actually where the jaw kind of goes. Oh, let's go for it like that. Can't be 100% correct all the time. It does have quite a deep jaw, so it must have been almost like normal parrots, where the top beak would be coming down, hacking into it, clamping, and probably pulling or shredding. I need to go and watch some parrots feed. Because actually, even though I'm in the UK, where ring-necked parakeets have got loose, they've taken over certain parts of the country. London, huge population, and they're actually being culled now because they're in competition with native birds. But down in Dorset, we also have a huge amount of escapees, which is quite fun. Because you just hear this horrendous racket, it's like, oh my god, what on earth's that? And lo and behold, a whopping great big parakeet flies past your head and goes after your crisps. That's quite a scary looking head, but that's how I can see it. In the Isle, the heads are much longer compared to the skull. Now, the skull I'm looking at, I don't know if it's actually a young animal or an old animal. I'm not really happy with that. So I've put in my pencil mark, and then I'm just going to come in with the marker. And today's rubber that I'm using for the thing is a bit of putty rubber. I'm not using a full putty rubber. I'm literally tearing a piece off, using it, moulding it back, and then putting it back on, tearing a fresh piece on, and that way my main putty rubber won't dry out so quickly. So a little bit here and there. And somewhere around here there's also a Tombow mono eraser. Hey boy. Oh, there it is. One Tombow mono eraser. These are absolutely brilliant for fine detail erasing. I recommend them. Let's move that over there. Why is it on one screen you actually want working doesn't work? There we go, that's better. Right, Scully and McDoom time. Now, it's a herbivore. Because of that large area for the eye area, it's going to have a big eye. The eye is going to be more sideways. Now, this time, instead of putting in clean, crisp lines like I did with my other drawings, I'm going to do a much more sketchy effect. These pens, the grey ones, I use a lot when doing field sketching. So when I'm out and about drawing like people in the town, when I'm doing daily sketches for my coursework, this is the type of pen that I would take. And my main reason for using this pen this time is I do want a more sketchy look for this image. I know the skull is going to be a little bit bigger than the real thing and not quite the right shape, but let's call it artist license. And we'll put in that strange spike that I've added on the rig. I'm going to include that battery of teeth and the muscle area. And the funny thing is, with these pens, you can put down a layer, but when you put over a next layer, it won't make it darker, but it doesn't keep it the same. So it does a little bit like what the Copics do. So you do get a slight tonal variation. But it's not a huge one by any means. And once again, I can put the Copics over these really easily. Now, where's the muscle that I'm looking for? Ah, there. The jaw muscle, there's often a gap on top of dinosaur skulls where the jaw muscles join up on the top. So it's just worth making a note of where they are. And these guys actually had little quivery hollow thing. Oh jeez, sorry, it's been a long day. I've just come off a 12-hour shift. Quills. they've got hollow quills on the tails. Many people, many hypotheses. So you've got hypotheses that they were actually the same as a porcupine's and could be shaken to make sounds for communication or display. Some people said they could even be poisonous. So a deterrent to any predator. If it came to bite, the tail would go and the predator would get a mouthful of spikes. So some interesting theories going around. Now the tongue would join back here. Being a herbivore, probably quite a chunky tongue. And just adding a little bit of darkness. And hopefully you can see quite a difference in that style to that style. Right, I'm giving that a few minutes to just dry, and then I'm going to blot it. I'm not going to scrape. I'm just going to put the putty rubber down, bit of pressure, and take it off. I'm doing this because I don't want any of that wet ink to smudge. And I just want to gently clean it. There are a lot of ways you can use a putty rubber. You can just roll them on, you can splot them on. It's always quite nice to find a different way to apply them, as long as you're not tearing into the paper. And this is the first time I've ever actually used these pens or Copics on watercolour paper, so I'm being much more cautious than I normally would when applying rubbers. I'm not too worried if it doesn't take off all the pencil marks, because once the Copics go over, they'll blur into the background. I do want a little bit of detail there. There we go. Let's just lighten that off. I do prefer my sketchy style to my solid line work. It's just, since doing my degree, the sketching style of things does feel a lot more looser and more comfortable. Now, did this guy have scales on the skull? He had ridges. There were definitive ridges around the skull. Oops, sorry, clear my other hand. Sorry if my head bobs in the way, by the way. And eyes, I'm going to do like a goat's pupil in there. Do that cheek a little bit as in the game, just continuity. Now tacos. Taco. I have not seen a taco for years. Oh, that's the type I want to look at. In the original idea, I was going to do a small one of these dinosaurs and have the tail with the quills on it, and then have a tiny bell hanging off the end, but fear of getting into trouble with a certain company kind of made me think no. But I would look, I mean, it's very tempting to do one of these dinosaurs, which we call a taco in the game, with a little bell on the end of its tail. That's how sad I am. So taco. So taco is pretty much a flatbread which is folded in half with stuff in it. So it's a lazy person's wrap. I would guess there's all different types of flours and breads. Well, non-yeast based breads that you could use for this. See some green stuff, some red stuff. I don't know, food's food. Goes in one end, comes out the other. Gives you energy. That is food. And only one there. This will all make a bit more sense once I start to put in a bit more of the detail and clean up. Very lightly adding in a little bit of scale detail. This is where the 0.05 would come in so handy. Just take a bulk of that. And this putty rubber is a bit of a weird one. It's from WH Smith's. It's part of the large putty eraser. It feels much more sticky and gloopy than the Derwent ones and the other brands that I've got. It's almost more like blue tack. So I'm not sure if it's that good or if it's, I mean, I think it is just a cheap and cheerful one. But it just about does a job. It picks up enough of the graphite that I can see the underdrawing. And what I can do is, if I think a line's too heavy, just very gently, small circular motion with the mono eraser. Just touch it like that. And this is where, if you're using pencil, no matter what grade, if it's a H, if it's a 9B, anything like that, don't push hard on the paper. Pushing hard won't make the colour or the graphite come out any darker. You've got to do light layers. And also, if you keep to light layers, when you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to take off. Believe me. So I'll lighten up that bit. Oh, and don't ever be tempted when you've got rubby out bits to do that. Let's usually find it. What I would recommend is go down to your local drugstore, chemist, beauty shop and find the cheapest mop thing, you know, makeup applicator you can find. And use that. Just gently brush, brush, brush. And that stops any of the grease in your hand smudging anything onto there and damaging your paper. Never knew about this trick till last year. Finally learned it. Went out and bought tons of these little brush things. I don't use them for makeup, and my mum wonders, why have you got so many makeup brushes when you don't put on this makeup? I said it's for my artwork. She still doesn't quite get the idea, but for me it works perfectly fine. So taco colours. They're quite bright. And this is where thinking about the colours coming in. Because I don't want it bright, but I don't want it too dull. It's got to have a bit of them. I mean, there's going to be reds and bright greens in here. So, actually bright greens. Let's plonk down the green. So the grey pen actually now looks more like pencil. And when you start to put the Copic markers over, because the ink from the pen will still show through, it's quite effective. I mean, if I was to do these images in pencil, what I'd have to do is then go draw them out, photocopy them, then colour onto the photocopy. Otherwise the graphite would just mix with the marker and you would get grey smudging and sludging, and it's a mess. It's not even worth trying. Especially when you're into more expensive papers, or if you've done a really, really good drawing, you're really chuffed, you want to show the world, and then you go and stuff it up. So yeah, if you're going to do something in pencil with Copics, do your pencil drawing, photocopy it onto marker paper or bond paper if you can, or even onto Bristol board, and then put your markers onto the copy, not the original. We're doing handy hints today. So a little spots of red, I have no idea. Let's see what colours. Orange. Oh, you get pepper. You get orange peppers, don't you? You get orange, green, red peppers. So this one can have some, and cheese, of course. If you're using one of the dye rubber cheeses, ones that you can actually bounce, which all scares me. Now, if you're gonna have a cheese, have a decent real cheddar, or even a proper goat's cheese. You gotta have decent cheese, not this rubber stuff, this cheap manufactured yuck. Go to a cheese festival, enjoy the smells and the sights, chase the cheese. It's a actual national thing in the UK. We have a cheese chase, and you have to chase a wheel of cheese down this excessively steep hill, which is almost like a vertical drop. Yeah, there's broken arms, legs, collarbones, fractured everything's pretty much, but it's all for the sake of cheese. So I think I'm going to start with the YR21 for these little taco shells, and then I'll use the lighter yellow to just brighten them and tone them down a bit. I can come through and push some of the details on them. Okay, this one. And I can push that yellow up into the kind of filling, and that just add a little bit more variation. Add a bit of vibrancy. Now for the dinosaur itself, while that light is settling. What colour did they do? Like leopard colouring by the looks of it. Dark greys. Ooh, that's a difficult one. Right, so I'm going to use, I think, T5, T6, N1, no, N1 and N3. And if I use a blue and a cream, that should work. Right, there's actually creams on the head. So if I map out those creams, let's see, with the, no, I want an E000. And I'm going to use the chisel end just to map out those. A little bit of neck. You see I've not put in the arm yet, I'm still thinking about that. That's a horn, and they've got white around the eye. They've got little eye horns as well. I didn't actually spot that. I need to add in those tiny little brow horns. The mouth, which is just using another E11. Use it for this muscle here. And E21 I think I'm going to add in there, just to get some textures. Right, start with N1. This is going to be interesting because I've put already grey pencil down. You should be able to see that the line marker will show through a little bit, and then as I add the layers on, it's going to be interesting to see how much of it stays there. Go up here. I don't want this to be too crazy on me. I don't want it to go too dark. Now, this dinosaur in theory was quite a small dinosaur. Love my cup of tea. Right, so now I'm just literally going to concentrate on the areas of shadow. So I've put down a mid-tone, and I'm now going to put down a slightly darker tone. And then what I'll do is I'll come back through with the lightest and blend the whole lot back. Give it some light patterning. It's easy with Copics to work wet onto wet, because you can get a much nicer, smoother blend with it. up with that 0.1 and just pick in some more detail. So this time we got ink as an underlayer, then the overlayer of the markers, and then we're going over that in certain areas just to make a little bit stand out. I'm sorry if the camera's jumping around. Now I'm going to add a little bit of a warm kind of colour, so I'm thinking of using that E000 just here and there to add a little bit of warmth, so the greys aren't too stark. This also helps blend in lots of the colour, and it just takes the sharpness out of bits. And because it's a lighter colour, it's going to bleach out a lot of the other ones. Yeah, happy with that. So I just need to sharpen up the little tacos. Funny, when I used to make tacos, I used to use lettuce leaves. Just get like an iceberg lettuce, get a whole leaf, then just stuff it and fold it in half. I want to add some texture to the bready stuff, so I'm just going to use an E. Just do lots of spots. And pick out where the shadow is. So, what to do with this arm? Some of the articulated skeletons show the taco walking on all fours, others show it walking on 2 legs, so I'm thinking 2 legs. So if it's leaning downwards, so I've got to put my head in, there are 3 fingers on average, which would have gone something like that to support the weight. Right. So actually I can get away with hiding the hand, I reckon. Yeah, looking at the skeleton, I think I can. So the shoulder blade will be up here. And the bicep. A lot of the dinosaurs' joints seem to be on swivels. Unlike a lot of our joints as mammals, our joints are slightly different. Actually quite different. But you'd have to look that up in an anatomy book. I know there's a massive difference in the joint forms. And you know when you see a skeleton in the museum of a dinosaur, try and imagine what the discs in the spine, how big and thick the discs in the spine would be. Because you know when you see like the line of a spine of a diplodocus or something like that, and they're all butted up against each other, there would have had to be a disc between that, which would have been like what we have, to cushion and to help with the movement. So that would make a difference to the size of an animal. Just throwing it out there as a thought. Just do a slightly different layer of colour on here. We've got a different base layer. What I've just marked in across from the neck to the arm, that's where a group of muscles is. So you've got the trachea and the airway, the esophagus and trachea coming around this part, and then there's a group of muscles that attach to the atlas bone at the back of the skull, and those can come all the way to the kind of shouldery area. And then above that you have a trapezium muscle. If you want to learn to draw animals really well, please definitely go and get a book on anatomy. Even if it's just a really cheap one, that just shows blocks of where the muscle groups go. They're so handy, because even if you visualise them as just triangles and random shapes, after you do them a few times you remember the shapes, and so it starts to show in your work. But yeah, it's something I definitely recommend. I mean, most of the stuff that I pretty much learnt was just by doing the Tales of Amalthea course, which was done by Terrell Whitlatch. I think that's how she spells her name. Sorry, I'm no good at pronouncing names. And it's a free course, and it's all about creature creation. It's absolutely great fun. It's to do with the Copic markers again, but it shows you how to create an animal, real or imagined. And she's got some stunning books. And she's actually was one of the creature designers for George Lucas for the Star Wars films. So I'm just adding back in that warmth. In fact, I'm going to add in a tiny bit of brown. Actually, now if I use W7, which is a warm grey, and then blend that back in, so it's going to look really stark and weird at first. blend that back with the, let's see, I want W3s. W5 I started it with. So the darkest area I've put down in tiny little amount, and then the next layer I go over a slightly wider area. And then the next layer, still the lightest layer, I go over even a wider area. W0. So it's just combining a lot of greys. And these W1s will add some warmth to the image. And then we'll just come in with the cream. So to make those horny bits stand out a bit more, that sounded completely wrong, I'm going to use the 0 and just bleach them out slightly. Now for a background, I'm a bit stuck on what to do. Actually, if I extend that, turn it into a rock. So it's now an actual rock covered in little tacos. I'm just going to add a little bit more detail to them. As you know, I sometimes literally just use squiggle marks. In fact, I'm going to put the other arm in just here. Use the T8 just to create shadows. So I don't want it to look too flat. Sorting out that under shadow there. So for the rock, I don't want it to merge in with the grey of the dinosaur. So to make sure it doesn't, I'm going to add little puddles of moss onto there. And that's carrying that green from one area to another. And then when I go over with the greys, that will blend back again, so it'll become less bright. I'm going to use a much darker pen there just to indicate the shadow on the rock, and then push that back again. So with these markers, it's literally about pushing and pulling the colours around. But what I want to make sure is that there's not a halo effect around the jaw, so I need to make sure I bring that in quite tightly. Now I'm going to use that yellow and just put a tiny amount into the underside, just to create a little bit here and there. Put that there. Now background colour wise, something that's going to work with grey. Yellow is an obvious one, and so is orange, but then I've got the orange and yellow here. Think. Let's try. No, that's not right. Right, it's a bit of a gamble. Another colour which is slightly lighter. So I'm just pushing a few of the colours forward. Oh, I did see a really bright orange. That's what I'm after. I'm going to add a tiny bit of this to each little one. I'm just adding some really light blues into there. And just make the colour a little bit more vibrant. Push a couple of those greens. Now I want to change that blue slightly. So I've made it quite light, and now I'm just going to add a kind of darker gradient, and I'm going to do it as a diagonal. So it's going to go kind of from around here somewhere. Which one was this? This would be 12, so what have I got here? I know most of my B colours are actually running out due to the harbour scapes that I'm drawing. I'm just draining every single one. B41. By adding a tiny gradient, it should hopefully just help the image stand a bit clearer and also get some interest. So create a little bit of interest and content, kind of different colours, different gradients. Hopefully it'll work. There we go. I think. So let's bring that up. Let's see what a mess my desk is, and you wouldn't believe where the pens end up. So hopefully, see, moving the camera a little. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what the final image is looking like. So that's pretty much the base layer for that one. And then what I can do is I can come through it and I can add on a little bit later. So I'm just going to raise this guy a little bit. So then I can push these down. And just give you a rough idea of what the whole set, well, 4 of the 6 are now looking like. So yeah, the one thing I'm noticing straight away is I've got a continuation of colour, which isn't bad because by the time I do some other sets it's going to look quite different. I definitely like doing the grey pen more than the black pen. That doesn't quite work, that does. At least that's my personal opinion. So I'm probably actually going to do the rest in the grey. Quite like that. It's just blended back, so there's a sketch there, but it's not too strong. So that's going to be a taco eating tacos. Then you've got a potato, or well, dinosaur we call potato eating potatoes. You've got the Parasaurolophus with the Raptors karaoke night. And a T-Rex and Raptors at Party Pond with little party hats and presents, and sadly the remains of everyone who kind of went. And then underneath eventually there'll be a Rex having a cup of tea. This one's going to be quite different in the sense that, shuffle that up a bit so you can see a bit more. I want it to be fluffy, really fluffy, like the ladies' tea party fluffy, and that way it's going to be a complete contrast to all of the others. So if you're not into your greens and blues and browns, there's going to be something pink and purple and lilac and teal and turquoise and all of that. So I'm just trying to make sure that my colour variations are for everybody. So yeah, so that's the results so far. So I hope that's helped give you some inspiration to having a go at doing your own drawings and trying out different mediums. I'm certainly enjoying these Derwent pens, especially the grey one. I may have to get some more this weekend. I'm shopping, but it's quite a trip to find my nearest stockist, so that should be fun. But yeah, and definitely if you get the chance to have a sketchbook, definitely go and get yourself a little sketchbook and do a daily sketch in it. Even as I said on my last stream, even if it's just literally the front of the house, a room in the house, a mug, somebody's dinner even, just close your eyes, open them, and even if you have to turn around and just walk around for a bit, see what you can see. You'll be amazed. Even just drawing a pen, how accurately can you get those highlights? You see all the bright, dark, medium, all this. That's not a grey barrel. There are dark greys, there are blues from the reflections. So yeah, have a go at drawing a pen. A pair of scissors. That's complex but great fun. But yeah, find inspiration in the world around you and definitely have a go and keep trying, because art is in the eye of the beholder. So what one person likes, another person won't like, and the vice versa. So don't let anybody put you off and keep on trying. So until next time, I hope this has helped, and hopefully we'll get on with the rest. Possibly this weekend, we'll see how it goes. All depends on weather, timing and all that. So till next time, take care everybody, all the best, and happy drawing to you all.